Hi there, my name is Kay Moon, and I'm a twin flame channel and Western astrologer. And this is a video about the new moon in Cancer occurring on June 28th, 2022 at 10:28 p.m. if you happen to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States. For your local time, please check a time zone converter. This will be the Lightworker energy update for this lunation. This new moon in Cancer is taking place here at the 7th degree of the sign of Cancer. The sign of Cancer represents our emotions, our families, emotional congruence and integrity, and not just the way we feel, but also how we process those emotions as well. This new moon is unique in that it is conjunct the body named Lilith. Lilith has a very interesting story. Many astrological scholars talk about what we know about the mythology in different ways, but one of the few things everyone can agree upon is that she is a symbol of strength. She is a symbol of knowing what she wants and having what she wants. And my own intuition and channeling around the planetary body, what I've been shown is that Lilith likes to have things her own way. And when she can't have them her own way, she may actually exit stage left. She doesn't actually like to stick around for that. And in addition to that, we find that Lilith also carries with her very strong rejection themes. And those themes, as they come up, are at this time during the new moon in Cancer, signaling to us where there's some work to do around allowing ourselves to feel what we feel and still be connected to other people, to love in the way that we love and still love ourselves. These are themes that might be kind of loud at this time. With Lilith conjunct the new moons tend to pretend new beginnings. The Lilithian energy is bringing in emotional congruency and a willingness to do what we feel at any cost. That rejection energy is a shadow energy, but in order to heal it, as the saying goes, we do need to feel it. And so there's a real vibe here at this lunation of reassessing or taking a look at the places where we feel we have been displaced, rejected from our families. Family systems are governed by Cancer, soul family, work family. Even with Cancer, we're talking about country of origin as well, where we feel like we don't belong. We might have this particular energy pop up with some messages at this time. Now, there was a quote that I wanted to share with you guys. I'm going to pull it up now from another YouTuber. And as soon as I saw, she had posted it in her community section, I think yesterday, as soon as I saw it, my guides had kind of chimed in with an additional message having to do with this new moon. So I'm going to show you guys that now and share that additional message because it seemed really, really relevant. The YouTuber's name is Enchanted Cottage. And she shared this over on her YouTube page. It's a post that says, moving on isn't about not loving someone anymore and forgetting them. It's about having the strength to say, I still love you, but you're not worth this pain. And so I thought that was an interesting quote to come up right at this particular lunation, because as Lilith is speaking to this new moon, there's some emotional truths that we just can't run from anymore. There's some emotional realities that we can't gloss over, make like pretty up. push down, ignore. There's some, yeah, emotional realism that's clocking in for the collective and saying, oh, you will pay attention and you will deal with this. What's interesting about this, as I'm, was looking into it, is that, and what my guides had to say about it, is that sometimes that sensation of hurt or pain that we're experiencing in our emotional connections, whether it's romance or family or friends, that quote may be true for you around, regardless of what emotional connection that could be about for you. My guides had reminded me that sometimes our hurt and our rejection that we're experiencing is actually based on our own expectations, not just their behavior. And that in addition, we have this energy at this lunation of a Neptune and Mercury square. Whenever Neptune and Mercury come together, our consciousness, our clarity, and our communication can be way off. Our perception of reality can be a bit skewed, and especially with emotions running as high as they are right now, there's a real capacity to potentially land in some illusions or delusions that cause pain later. When in reality, what may be happening isn't that anyone's doing anything to cause us pain. What actually may be happening is that maybe the puzzle pieces just don't fit together, right? And there's a need with Lilith in the mix, given her strength, given her power. There's a real need to have some accountability where our hurt is a function of our own skewed perceptions around reality and what's happening around the people we're connected with. They may have their own pain that they are dealing with that causes them to behave the way they do. They may have their own trauma, or they may have recognized faster than we did. These two puzzle pieces don't fit together. And so they're acting in according with that realization that there's not synergy here, and may have pulled back, pulled away, acted in emotional congruence with themselves. And now we're starting to catch up with this particular new moon in Cancer, which is setting us off on our own journey of emotional congruence. And it could be, vice versa. The energy could apply to you having realized certain things like, you know what, I need to take a step back from, this soul family connection, or I need to take a step back from, this friendship, or this community, or this romantic partnership. We're just not on the same frequency. And so even though that might be painful for other people to receive, simultaneously, it's your own emotional emotional congruence that's facilitating that action. And this may be a period of time, this new moon in Cancer, where they are starting to lean into accepting some of that, albeit with a little bit of potential unclarity in the mix, confusion, perchance, about what's going on. For those of you that don't know Matthew Hussey, he is well known as a relationship coach in the relationship coaching space. And last year he had done an interview with someone, and I remember listening to the interview. It was literally almost about 1 year ago. He said, we have to stop being in the place where we're calling people narcissists simply because they're not showing up, behaving, treating us in precisely or exactly the way we expect them to. Sometimes people just aren't into us. Sometimes people just aren't They don't want to be with us the way we want to be with them. And so that doesn't constitute narcissistic behavior. That constitutes it's not a match. And we need to be willing to both say that to people, but also receive that from people so that there can be more clarity, more congruence in our connections, and we can find where we all fit. So, this particular new moon in Cancer really illuminated some of that as from a relationship space, regardless of what relationship configuration we're talking about, because of the way Lilith is showing up so boldly in the midst of this new moon. She will have it her way. She is rooted in her emotions. She is clear about what she feels, and she's unapologetic about it. And so where you're finding, emotions show up in that way for you, this is the opportunity to really honor them. Those feelings are coming up for a reason. Don't detach, lean in. There's messages there. This new moon also shows up opposite the energy of Pholus, further exacerbating some of, or amplifying or underlining, highlighting what I just shared. The Pholus energy shows up as sacrifice. It shows up as collateral damage, kind of being in the wrong place at the wrong time and getting hurt by other people, being so caught up in what they're doing that you end up paying a price for it. And with Pholus speaking so directly to this kind of energy, there's a real kind of recognition where energies haven't been flowing or meshing emotionally. And I'm going to talk about and speak to this in the collective momentarily, what we're seeing in mainstream. But in our individual lives, there may just be some light bulbs going off around this time around, oh, we just don't mesh. We're just not on the same page. You're over here doing your thing and I'm doing my thing. And these two things have us continuing to bump heads. Oh, got it. There needs to be a different way we approach this so that we're not continuing to hurt ourselves. The only thing I want to, again, be very mindful of and caution us all around is with Neptune and the conversation it's in with Mercury. There can be a tendency to catastrophize, awfulize, move into extreme doomsday thinking around what we're seeing. And on the flip side, completely skip over it, gloss over it, positive think our way through it without truly addressing the messages and the emotions for ourselves. So it's a really good time to just slow down, be with what you're feeling, get curious about those emotions and their messages, unpack it, explore it for yourself before making any major moves. Okay. So with that opposition of Pholus, yes, emotions can get the best of us and can cause some unintended consequences as well. At this time where others can impact us or we can impact others. The thing that is really important to remember, because there's some other aspects here that may facilitate a desire to lash out or act out, I should say. It's more of an acting out than a verbal lashing out with some of the other energies here. The one thing that I want to make sure to say is with Pholus in sign of stability and long-term energy aspecting this, acting out at this particular moment in our connections based on the emotions that we're feeling can have some very long-term unintended consequences. So feel what you feel. Don't push it away. Don't stuff it. Don't try to make it different, but really give yourself some space and time to feel it before you act on it. Space it out. before you converse about it. Space it out before you react. Be with yourself. Love yourself enough to give yourself that space. Offer yourself the space that you would demand of somebody else when you lash out. By doing that, that's what really gives us the opportunity to face an energy like this new moon with conscious awareness and full sovereignty. Okay. We have a square to Jupiter to this particular new moon. There we go. 90-degree angle. Squares can bring out tension, disharmony, shadow energies. Jupiter likes to expand whatever it touches. So in this case, this would be emotions running even higher than high in a lot of circumstances for some people. The other way this can play out is a bit of like a over optimism, a sense of nothing can go wrong. For me, it's like a willingness to completely, especially because, like I said, Neptune is also in square with our consciousness mechanism, our clarity mechanism. That's Mercury. There can be a real desire here to completely ignore red flags that are staring us right in the face, problems that need addressing, that is specifically being brought to the surface at this time through our emotional reality. Now, the flip interpretation for this, especially because Cancer governs families, and that's where this new moon, new beginning energy is, with Jupiter here, the expander, in conversation with the family maker. There can be, especially with Uranus conjunct the North Node, like surprise kind of pregnancy information, surprise family making information. This is fertility and conception energy on high. And so really important to know that this energy is here. If in fact you would like to, if you're trying to conceive, this is a wonderful energy where you have a lot of universal support for seeds being planted at this time, being able to come to full harvest. There's also an energy here for creative projects and getting creative projects and creative work off the ground. You can really channel these emotions creatively to produce work, produce content, produce art at this time. It's a great way to use this in terms of for production, for ambition. But if making children is not on your agenda, this is something you don't want to do at this time, just be mindful, because that energy is in the air. There's definitely an energy of like anything could happen in that arena at this time. So just, be responsible out here, people. Be responsible. Know what you want and act accordingly. Now, there's also a trine to Vesta with this new moon. So there's a lot of aspects going on. Vesta's energy talks about dedication and commitment and service. So there's a lot of emotional dedication. She sits in water sign Pisces. And investment into our healing through this. This is one of the most supportive things that I've seen about this particular new moon is Vesta's energy here in trine from healing sign Pisces to this. I mean, Lilith and Cancer with the new moon. This is just like straight up a trigger fest for a lot of people, where you might feel extremely sensitive. Vesta in Pisces aspecting this is saying, yes, we're sensitive to certain things. And how do we heal? Yes, we feel these things deeply. And how do we come to a place of resolution and healing? Yes, we have these challenges that we've been facing. How do we move into a place of putting a balm on these wounds? So I like seeing Vesta in aspect to this new moon. It really provides the clarity that this new moon offers a chant, like there's divine purpose for any triggers, any pain, any sensitivity going on at this time that seems unignorable, or things that can't be coped with through our usual routes and mechanisms. This Vesta energy is in giving us that extra oomph to go that one step further, to find our healing, to find our solutions. And so that's a really beautiful thing at this particular new moon. There's lots of other aspects here that I'm going to get into that highlight some of the challenges, but also the gifts of this period of time in just a moment. But I'd like to invite you, if you're feeling this energy intently, we're going to have a few other planetary energies move through Cancer in another 2 weeks' time or so. If you're feeling this energy quite intensely, it's only going to get a little more intense as we move into Cancer season. Happy birthday, Cancers. And you'd like to work on some of this or get some illumination and clarity, now is a great time to book a session. You can find me at kmoonastro.com. The link to book is just below this video. If you'd like to get on my calendar, I've got some times available in about 10 days or so. So it would be wonderful to chat with you if you'd like to have a conversation. And I think just at the end, maybe at the end of next week, I might have some time available. So, okay. Let's have a look here. I spoke on the community section of this channel, and I also spoke over in the on my newsletter mailing list. If you happen to be on my private list, you would have received an email about this as well. I spoke in both places at length about Uranus conjunct the North Node. So I'm just going to briefly recap that here. The North Node is the direction of our collective growth, the transiting North Node. In your natal chart, it is the lesson of your lifetime, the number one thing you are here to learn as long as you are breathing in this body. With the transiting North Node here in the sign of Taurus, all about care and nurturing and self-respect, self-worth, self-esteem, our values, and Uranus here, Uranus being the energy of divine change, lightning quick, overnight transformations, and divine intervention in our life. There is a lot going on with this new moon that is part of a larger, this one new moon is part of a series of lunations that extend through the end of the year that are meant to bring fast change, dramatic about faces into our lives. And so we've seen some of this occur in the collective energy. If you've been following any of the US news, we had this overturning of a Supreme Court decision. That's the highest court here in the United States that makes legal decisions for the country at large. There was a decision that abortions were legal here in the United States as a right for women if they didn't feel like they could raise the child in the way that would honor the child's life, or if they had an experience of incest or rape and there wasn't going to be a way for them to raise that child without significant trauma to themselves or for any other reason. For a woman's health, sometimes going through childbirth just could really compromise or put a woman's life at risk. And so what just happened after, I guess it's almost 50 years, this decision that women could get an abortion legally in the United States was overturned as of today, as of the date of this recording. And so this about face in American values. is not something that is going to be unique to just this decision or just America. As the United States, as Uranus conjuncts the North Node, we're going to be seeing more of these kinds of about faces, things that move. We're all the way in one direction, are now going to move 180 degrees in the opposite direction in our individual lives, in the collective energy. We're going to start to see some of these transformations that dramatically change our lives. Uranus does come with a bit of drama. I hate to say it. There's a bit of drama with that energy there. So just understand that, before we dive in and say any one thing is inherently bad or inherently good, or line ourselves up and dig our heels in on one side of the issue. The important thing to remember is that we do live in a benevolent universe. We do live in a universe that is full of love. We do live in an energetic system that always balances itself out, and thrives on truth and sovereignty. And so this may be what's happening at this moment, regardless of what side of the issue you line up on. There is something about this that is moving in the direction of divine order being restored, whether we can see it from today's vantage point or not. Uranus in Earth sign Taurus can also bring earthquakes. There have been reports and dramatic changes to the Earth itself. There have been reports worldwide of changes in the Earth structure, flooding, earthquakes, etc. Expect this kind of thing where almost like the tectonic plates of our lives are shifting in such a way to restructure the very land and ground we stand on going forward. And so these shifts are to be expected. Know that they're coming. Know that they're not inherently bad or inherently good. It's what we do with these things that creates the growth, the transformation, allows our world to become what we want it to be. Okay. Let's talk about some of the other energies here. And just, to put a pin on that for our individual lives, you may really be seeing, especially because of the way the emotional energy is running high in your emotional connections with family, with friends, with soul family, you may be experiencing some emotional revelations and insights that can't be ignored, that are shifting the way you are configured in those relationships. So understand that that's the case here, and that the dust will settle soon, but the changes are happening now. And they're for now, all there is to do is to just feel into how you feel, get into emotional congruence, invite the emotions to reveal to you what is it you need to do to come back to yourself, to come back to emotional integrity. Okay, so we talked a little bit about one of the major aspects to Mercury at this time, that is this square from Neptune, which is creating a bit of fogginess, a bit of confusion, a bit of up in the airness with our clarity. But we also have Mercury sextile Chiron. Here's Chiron in Aries, having a conversation with that Mercury. In addition, we also have a trine to Saturn. And so this trine to Saturn and sextile to Chiron are actually quite helpful, given that this energy can be so unsettling in so many ways. This combo is giving us an opportunity to heal things that are hurtful to us or that we feel rejected around, if we're willing to be open and do mercurial things, which is talk about it, reveal it, share it, be in conversation about it. It's an opportunity to upgrade a lot of our mental thought processes with Saturn in the mix. Saturn likes to bring congruence and integrity to things, air sign to air sign, Aquarius to Gemini. This is all about reaching out and talking and finding your allies at this time, people who understand you and can support you as you're moving through some of this energy. It's going to give us the opportunity to explore some new concepts that can also elevate our lives. Now, this isn't aha energy. This isn't eureka energy. This is more like study and conversation, yielding revelation and personal growth. This is more of an opportunity to seek out therapy or coaching or have a friend hold space while you pull forward what's inside of you so you can hear your own wisdom. That's a way to use this energy as well. But not necessarily the time to problem solve, more the time to process. The time to problem solve is coming in a few weeks' time. Especially because with the Neptune piece in the mix, we may at this juncture be missing some of the big picture. And the full fallout, the full implications of what certain actions may come with. And so it's great time to heal with Neptune square Mercury, Chiron, sextile Mercury, to look for those places where we need healing in order to be able to move forward in our lives fully emotionally intact instead of the emotionally walking wounded. It's a great time for review and reflection, for considering all of the options, reviewing things from different angles. It's a time for exploring and researching. It's a time for a lot of rational thought, as much as you can get with Neptune and Mercury in square, and calm review, and looking for more intel, more information. We have, speaking of Neptune at this lunation, we've got Juno, the partnership asteroid, in conversation with Neptune and Nessus. You can see them all sitting here together in Pisces, Nessus, Juno, Neptune. That partnership asteroid there can be a lot of unclarity, like a lack of clarity in some of our partnerships, business partnerships, project partnerships, and alliances. There can be a dissolution of some of our partnerships or partnership agreements. We may find that there's things that break apart where there were alliances or agreements for partnership, though not that they would break, but that we would see almost like oh yeah, we're just not on the page about certain things. So we need to talk about, are we going to get on the same page or are we going to part ways? That kind of conversation would come up now as revelation is, or we're getting revelation that we're just not on the same page about certain things. Lots of rumination with Nessus in the mix. Nessus likes to think, overthink, and then rethink the overthink. Nessus is such a heady energy. It wants to ruminate and go deep into and run circles around all the ways that we're processing what's going on. It has this obsessive energy when it comes to whatever it's touching. And right now, Nessus is touching partnership asteroid, and by square, it's touching our consciousness. And so in the square, we can get, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the shadow energy coming forward. And so with lots of emotional triggers up, there can be lots of rumination in the consciousness about what to do about these emotional triggers. Lots of, overthinking, reviewing, like running circles in our own heads around what's happening in our connections. So, again, this is a great time to pull out what's bothering you with a good friend or a coach or a therapist so that you can see it clearly and get to the root of it, because this Lilith energy is not going to leave us alone until we've understood the root of the issue and really come to terms with that it is an issue and it must be dealt with. So that's what's going on here. We have Mars in conversation. So here's Mars at the 25th degree of Aries there. We've got Mars in conversation in a sextile with Saturn here. These two are 60 degrees apart, and Mars is also in conversation with Pluto at this time. I don't love Mars in conversation with Pluto, like really ever, especially opposition, conjunction, or square. It's a powerful energy that when these two come together, they can kind of almost bring out the shadow of one another. Mars in shadow is aggression. Pluto in shadow is destruction. You put these two things together, and I know you know what happens here. Pluto and Mars coming together in this kind of configuration, they don't always bring out one another's light. Thankfully, the tempering energy here is Saturn sextiling that Mars, because when Pluto fuels Mars in this way, Mars in Aries just wants to act. In fact, it can be almost reactive in how quickly it moves from feeling something to acting on what that feeling is. The Plutonian energy here has us reacting from Pluto-based themes. Pluto-based themes have everything to do with secrets, jealousy, fear. When it's talking to Mars in this way, imbalances in power dynamics. And so, like I said, the tempering energy, thankfully, is Saturn. Saturn likes to have a measured approach. Saturn wants to really look over things and give us an opportunity to look at things from every perspective before we act, and to come up with a very rational and measured plan of action that will produce results. So when you put all of these together, there's an opportunity yet for Mars to move from aggression to its light, which is assertion. There's an opportunity from Pluto to move from its shadow, which is manipulation, into standing tall in your power. Okay. There's this vibe with these three that's talking about, in the light of these emotional triggers, that old adage, if it's to be, it's gonna be up to me. There's a real desire to step up, take the bull by the horns on very important matters. There's a vibe of let's get ish done here. What's really useful about this as well is that both Mars and Saturn are in their home signs, so they can give a lot of their best. Mars in Aries and Saturn in Aquarius can give some of their best energy, where there's almost a willingness to find allies and alliances that really support what we need to get done at this time. Okay. So again, this is not really the time for, taking on other people or taking on the issues directly. It's more the time of, okay, let me just see what just happened. Let me explore how I feel. Let me deal with my feelings and come up with a plan. That's the energy of this particular new moon. But, if you're hearing this and there's already been a moment where you or somebody else has reacted in a way that has had some consequences, I just invite you to step into some forgiveness and some grace around it as best as you're able to, understanding that emotions were going to be running high during this time without the thought processes running high on clarity. Okay. The energies do shift in a week or so. The other thing that, seems really important to mention is to just stay really safe wherever you are when Mars and Pluto can get into that kind of configuration. There can be, themes around physical violence and physical abuse that show up with Saturn in the mix, some sort of like bondage. Just be safe. Look out for yourself, look out for your friends, look out for your family and your kids. Like, just be as safe as you can during a time like this, because there can be a lot of people with their finger on the trigger, probably the wrong phrase, but like itching to react to something in a way that may not always be the most constructive under an energy like this. Okay. We're going to have some time, like I said, in a couple weeks' time to really have the important convos rationally and productively. Trying to have them at this time, we may find ourselves going in circles and then moving into a downward spiral instead of finding actual solutions in this energy. This energy is less about finding solutions with others, more about recognizing the reality of the challenge within ourselves. So overall, this energy can be very polarizing, as the collective in this moment can be very caught up in my emotions, my perspective, my needs, my pain, my goals. Getting a theme here, guys. Getting a theme. And there's divine purpose in that. There's seasons in which we do need to be, especially for those who can be over givers, over generous. There's a real need to get very centered in, hey, what do I need? What can I get centered in myself? It serves that purpose so that, people who are a bit on the fringes can realize and get in touch with their emotional backstop, so they can stop being pushed off the edge of the game board and really come forward and be a participant in the conversation. So it does serve a divine purpose in that way. And where those who are already, active emotional players in their own world, this is an opportunity to really understand, okay, what's next for me in terms of where my life is growing. Again, if you want to have a look at all of this, best way to do it, book with me over at kmoonastro.com. This energy will be with us for a little bit, especially the grand transformations and changes. You want to have a conversation about it, let's book some time. There's availability in the first week of July for us to talk. I would love to read for you. On the positive side, like I said, we can use this time to get in touch with who we are, what drives us, what makes us tick. We can accomplish very important tasks in our own lives at this time. And there's loads of harmony to come down the road with others. But for right now, it's just about getting in harmony with ourselves and seeing our own truths within. And that's going to ultimately lead to harmony without on the outside. Great time for therapy and coaching, journaling and research, and using any emotional triggers that come up creatively. Okay. Thank you so much for watching, liking, subscribing, and sharing. I always appreciate the way you all contribute on this channel. And that's it with this new moon. Bye for now.